Hey guys, I'm Amanda Shee. I'm an anesthesiologist and intensivist, and today I want to talk about something a bit different from my normal content. I have had a number of recent life changes and have been trying to figure things out with a kind of new perspective and new way of thinking about those things. That's something that I will probably share with you guys at some point, but at this point I'm just focusing on trying to get through studying for my boards and kind of living a different life. I've also taken a break from my social media channels because I really wanted to focus on studying and again some of the just getting used to life changes and things like that. But that being said, with all of the recent hate crimes against the Asian American and Pacific Islander community that's been going on, I've been pretty distracted from everything else going on in my personal life and felt like it was important to share my story, share some of my reflections of being Asian American in America. I'll say that growing up, I never felt like I fit in. I was always made fun of in school for how my eyes were shaped, how my face was flatter. I was called derogatory terms when I was a kid. I was always made fun of. So I always kind of thought that I was an outsider in this country. This made me really kind of reject my Chinese heritage and reject being Asian. I felt like, I was born here in the United States. I am American. I have an American name. Why is it that I cannot identify as someone that's American? And in my effort to reject my culture, I went as far as to not learn Chinese language. To the disappointment of my family, I purposely did poorly on Chinese school exams and I never studied for them to the point that I dropped out of Chinese school. I would reject Chinese cuisine in favor for American foods. I would feel embarrassed by my culture and want to assimilate to things that were American. Another aspect that was challenging growing up was this idea of American beauty standards and that there were rarely any Asian women on television or as models or anyone else to kind of look to and say, wow, that's a beautiful Asian American or Asian at all in our country. So I always struggled with how come my lashes would never curl the way that American girls would be able to curl theirs. I struggled with the fact that my hair was always so straight and heavy that it was a challenge to have to style it in any way. I struggled with just my face and the idea that as an Asian American, I would never be beautiful in this country. That I actually, for a while, wondered if anyone would find me attractive because I had an Asian face and I would never be American. I have struggled with my identity as an Asian American. I have kind of alluded to, I will always have an Asian face, and despite speaking perfectly English, growing up in an English-speaking household, finishing medical school, being a healthcare provider, caring for the community here in America, it doesn't matter because I will always be labeled as someone who is Asian or not necessarily American. And while I rejected a lot of my culture when I was younger, I now as an adult have started to realize that that is a huge loss. It's a huge loss for me to have not learned the Chinese language effectively. It's a huge loss that I didn't learn the stories of my ancestors, that I didn't understand, how we have come to be a culture and believe the things that we do today. And that's something that I continue to struggle with, but I've been better about trying to embrace who I am from a Chinese perspective as a Chinese individual, with the fact that I am American, I'm an Asian American in this country. I still struggle to this day with going to Chinatown and being seen as someone that should be able to speak Mandarin or Cantonese, but while there are some words in there that I remember and that I could probably say, I'm too embarrassed at this point. I feel like I have repressed and rejected that so much of my identity as a Chinese individual that I'm kind of paralyzed with fear when I try to use the language or try to practice the language. And I hope that in the coming years and over time, I'll be able to embrace both identities as an Asian American, as someone who's Chinese but also American, and be able to make the best of both of those worlds. But this all being said, if you're part of the Asian American Pacific Islander community, I hope that you will speak up and share your stories. And the hate crimes that are targeted against our community are scary. I think we need to come together and acknowledge that we're scared, that I'm worried that my loved ones could be the next victim of an assault or violence, or that I myself could be the next victim. Our friends and family members in our community are hurting, and we need to come together and do something about it. So I just wanted to come on here and share a little bit. I know this is not my usual content, but I do think it's really important to share about how I've been feeling and how scary it is to be living in a country that rejects you, and how kind of distracted I've been just even trying to study for my board exam with everything that's been going on. Thanks for watching. I will be on a break for a bit, but I will be back with more content soon. See you next time.